Are we live? Yes. We're in the air. Thank you. Welcome everybody. Wow, what a crowd. It's amazing. We have a very special day because we're opening a new exhibition. And what's very special, but what's also a bit sad, something old, something new is also always also a bit sad, is that today we're saying goodbye to our former chairman, Jan Post. We will start with that. After that, we will have the world premiere for the film Born at Night. We're very happy. Thank you, Space Caviar. And I will introduce them later. After the film, we have a short talk between Joseph, Martina and Judah. And then we will have drinks again. But first, let's enjoy this event. Maarten, will you do the honor to celebrate? Maarten is the chairman of Kazerne Foundation, the program foundation of Kazerne.
Thank you very much, Annemoon, and take care of the touwtje. Oké. Jongens en meisjes, dames en heren, ladies and gentlemen, I will try to speak some words in English, because Annemoon told me last week that the opening of the exhibition would be visited by a lot of people from all over the world. I thought she was joking, but she's often joking, but this time I see that there are a lot of people from all around the world. That makes us very proud. But before I'm going to tell some words to Jan Post, also known as John Mill. That's his own joke. I have the honor, Jan, to announce a lot of things today, but also that one of the most important eldermen of the city of Eindhoven, maybe one of the most important elder women in this case, of the region, maybe of the Netherlands, is here with us, because on a very busy day, she wanted especially the chance to say some words to you. May I introduce to you Marianne Scheurs. Thank you.
Thank you. I just walked in for the drinks and they said to me, do you want to say something? And I said, well, why not? No, it's really not why not. For this is again a wonderful exhibition that we are able to see here. And in Eindhoven, what we do most of the time is we create something new, and as soon as it's there, we create something again. We just don't reflect. And sometimes it's important to reflect. And what I want you to reflect upon is that you are sitting here is not something that happened easy. Yes, you are sitting in a dream, but dreams are hard work to realize. And it took an enormous amount of time to realize this dream. And an enormous effort. Are you going to cry at the moment? And an enormous effort from Annemoon and her gallant partner, Koen, to persist. And of course, the words are for you, Jan, also. You need people who stand by you all the time. And apparently you judge it the moment to step down because you have done that enough. You can say, well, it's okay now. It's wonderful to see you here. Miss Gallant. What you see is Annemon is wearing her dancing shoes. Normally she's in black all the way. But the wonderful moment that we are able to celebrate now is, yes, it has been tremendously hard work. And yes, blood, sweat and tears. And yes, everybody is still working beyond what everybody imagined capable. But it's full of energy because the end is in sight and it's only about adding things. Things that give you energy. So it has been a tremendous struggle, but the struggle is over. It still is hard work, and it will continue to be here for, well, the next 50 years. People never stop nowadays. At least 50 years. So let's celebrate who made this possible. Let's celebrate having dreams. Let's celebrate being Eindhoven. You can't tell me what to do. So now, I go to... As I already stated, you've been there all along the road. And it's because what you really want to happen is culture in all its form shaping this city. And if you look around you, you can see that you have created, together with a lot of other people, something very solid, which is here to last. For 50 years? No. At least. This is not the only thing you have given Eindhoven. Something that we don't talk about is that Jan is also part of a subsidy system in the province of Brabant. And he looks upon Eindhoven with a very kind eye. And he tells other people what is happening there that is important. And being an ambassador is very precious to all of us. So let's drink to Jan. Not only because he is part of making this possible, but because we know that he will make things happen in Eindhoven in whichever way that he sees the possibility. He also came along with Kiki and Joost. So he's free now, so if you need to act, somebody's objecting. So, you have no drink. Okay. Yeah. Everybody who has a glass, and everybody who doesn't have a glass, pretends to have a glass. And let's raise the glass to people who love culture, but also love making it happen. To Jan.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Thank you for being here today with us. And please bring our congratulations to Maximilian, your son, who is celebrating his 20th birthday today. Dankjewel. Jan, after this hug of one of the most important elder women of the region, You might get also a hug of one of the majors of the region, but we'll see at the end of the evening. That's not why we're here. As Anemone already thought, it's a little bit of a sad moment, but also a very happy moment. Jan, we are today here for saying a few words to you, because Jan Post, John Mayle, is the founding father of the Kazerne. It's true. Marianne told us already that the idea of the Kazerne comes from Anemone and Koen. We all know that. But without Jan Post, I don't know if we would have been here today in this Kazerne. Because Jan has a large garden. And in that garden, it's almost more than 10 years ago, Jan invited some people who were studying at that time at one of the academies here in Brabant. And together with Koen and Anemone, in that garden, in a small, hoe heet dat nou in het Engels, een bosje, een parkje. Goed, een parkje in Eindhoven called the Wielerwald. They had a small talk about the idea of Koen and Anemone. And from now on I want to continue in Dutch, not because Jan wouldn't understand an English speech, but to be honest, my native language is Lunes. It's almost like Eindhoven's, within 2 years I'm sure. Don't tell it to John, man. But because for me it's not possible, Jan, to give all the emotions in a non-native language. Vandaag, dames en heren, u heeft net al een klein traantje bij Anemone gezien. Ik zie Bert dus ook al snotteren. Maar het is niet zomaar iets. Jan Post is echt de grondlegger van de kazerne geweest. Het is echt zo dat in zijn tuin, na heel veel initiatieven van Koen en Anemone, een aantal mensen gewoon bij elkaar zijn gaan zitten, op jouw verzoek, om eens even, zoals dat hier in Brabant heet, met de benen over elkaar te gaan kijken hoe die wilde ideeën, want dat waren het echt, ik mag er af en toe ook bij zijn, van Koen en Anemone, op de een of andere manier waarheid zouden kunnen gaan worden. En ik moet eerlijk zeggen, ik geloof dat het 2008 was, toen ik de verhalen hoorde tijdens de vele pop-up restaurants die jullie al hier in de stad aan het organiseren waren. Het was wel heel erg ambitieus. En Jan, het is absoluut dankzij jouw enthousiasme, jouw doorzettingsvermogen, jouw netwerk, je ervaring, je kracht, je overredingskracht. En zo heb ik nog wel een hele waslijst aan andere superlatieven die op jou van toepassing zijn, die er mede voor hebben gezorgd, maar ook vooral voor hebben gezorgd dat uiteindelijk de kazerne hier echt zijn deuren heeft geopend. En dat er hier echt mensen komen eten, dat er hier exposities zijn en dat er op een dag als vandaag, het is inmiddels april 2018, we zijn ruim 10 jaar verder na die befaamde tuinsessie bij jullie thuis, Wiljan, want dat geldt natuurlijk ook voor jou. We zijn enorm ver en we staan aan de vooravond van weer een nieuwe fase. Wat we in het bestuur fase 2 noemen, de fase waarin de dromen van Anemone weer verder vorm gaan krijgen. En dat die zo weer verder vorm kunnen gaan krijgen, hebben we uiteindelijk allemaal te danken aan die mensen die aan het begin hun nek hebben uitgestoken. Er zijn er heel erg veel, maar er was er eentje die als eerste zijn nek uitstak en als eerste geloofde in het concept, in de droom van Anemone en Koen. En dat was jij, Jan. Dus ik wil jou toch vragen om, nu ik zo'n beetje aan het einde van mijn verhaal ben gekomen, langzaam maar zeker hier naar voren te komen. Om 2 redenen. De eerste reden is dat ik je dan goed in je ogen kan kijken, maar je dadelijk ook even de microfoon kan geven. Want jou kennende ga jij nergens weg zonder ook even iets gezegd te hebben. En die kans die krijg je van me. Maar voordat dat gebeurt, voordat ik jou de microfoon ga geven, wil Jan nog eventjes aankijken, zodat ook waar iedereen bij is, het credo achter een sterke man staat een sterke vrouw, meer dan ooit op deze situatie van toepassing is. Jan, we hebben jou de afgelopen 10 jaar ook mogen meemaken als een uitermate sterke vrouw, die zelfs op de momenten dat, ja zeker dames en heren, die momenten zijn er geweest, Jan even niet meer in het concept van de kazerne geloofde, was er wel Jan, die zei, jawel Jan, We gaan daarmee door. Ik heb het er regelmatig horen zeggen, ik heb het niet geturfd en ik zal je verder ook niet met getallen vermoeien. Maar Wiljan, we zijn jou minstens net zo dankbaar. Terug naar Jan. Jan, de vader van de kazerne is al een eretitel op zich. Maar we hebben er natuurlijk wel over nagedacht hoe we iemand die door de koning al is verheven tot de ridderstand. Het was weliswaar in Amsterdam, maar goed, dat telt ook. En er waren Eindhovenaren bij, dus dat scheelt dan weer. Hoe we zo iemand kunnen eren. En wij hebben met het huidige bestuur 2 dingen bedacht. Het eerste is, en dat weten we van jou beste Jan, jij bent geen man die grote voorpagina artikelen hoeft of enorm in het zonnetje hoeft te staan. Wat voor jou heel belangrijk is, en hebben we al die avonden, soms ook nachten meegemaakt, weekenden, dagen dat we door hebben gepraat om dingen mogelijk te maken. Het gaat er jou om dat jij een glaasje kan drinken en een hapje kan eten met de mensen die dicht bij jou staan en met wie jij samen tot resultaat bent gekomen. Want ja Jan, jij bent inderdaad heel belangrijk en wij noemen jou graag de vader van de kazerne, maar er zitten hier heel veel mensen bij elkaar en ik kijk speciaal ook even Anne aan, die samen met jou dat resultaat hebben mogen boeken. Dus om die reden hebben we er ook voor gekozen om speciaal met deze mensen die allemaal bij elkaar zijn, in aanwezigheid van het inmiddels alweer nieuwe bestuur, jou met een paar woorden toe te spreken. Dat heeft Marianne gedeeltelijk gedaan, die is met de verjaardag van de zoon weer vieren. En ik probeer in ieder geval namens het bestuur die emotie over te brengen die we met z'n allen voelen. Enerzijds de vreugde dat we dit met z'n allen hebben mogen bereiken. Anderzijds toch een beetje verdriet dat we afscheid gaan nemen van jou. Maar jij hebt wel beloofd dat je ons blijft helpen. Vooral om jonge mensen te blijven enthousiasmeren in de creatieve industrie. En jouw vertrek biedt natuurlijk ook plaats aan een aantal andere jonge, ambitieuze, talentvolle mensen om plaats te nemen in het bestuur. En om die reden, beste Jan, willen wij graag ook jou uitdagen. Zonder daar een concrete opdracht aan mee te geven. Integendeel, dat is niet de bedoeling. Maar wij willen jou graag eren met de ere die jou toekomt. Iedereen is de kazerne altijd begonnen. Niet voor zichzelf, maar om de jonge mensen uit de creatieve industrie, uit Nederland, Europa, maar vooral ook wereldwijd, de kans te geven zich te ontwikkelen. En jij hebt hier ook altijd enorm voor ingezet, Jan, om die mogelijkheid te bieden. Dat is ook altijd het concept van de kazerne geweest. Laten we met z'n allen voor zorgen dat we een platform hebben om die creatieve industrie te blijven ontwikkelen. De hele kazerne blijft zich ontwikkelen om dat te gaan doen. Maar ik wil jou vragen, Jan, of jij de komende jaren je wil blijven inzetten om op wat voor manier dan ook die jonge mensen samen met ons, samen met de kazerne waar jij de vader van bent, de kans te blijven geven. En hoe we dat gaan doen en hoe actief dat gaat zijn, dat weet ik niet. Maar het geeft ons een hele mooie gelegenheid om van tijd tot tijd een reden te hebben om jou te bellen. En om af en toe bij jou langs te komen. En dan hoop ik dat ik weer net zo'n lekkere bossenbol krijg. Had jij die verzorgd? Hij heeft hem zelf gehaald. Als dat ik de laatste keer heb gekregen. Jan, ik ga afronden. Om al deze, enerzijds, ik hoop mooie woorden, maar anderzijds ook belangrijke taak aan jou te geven, hebben wij nagedacht over een titel die wij jou kunnen geven. Een titel die naast vader van de kazerne ook echt de vlag en de lading dekt. We hebben er in het bestuur over nagedacht, we hebben er met mensen over gepraat en het moest een titel zijn die eenmalig is, die uniek is. Want er kan maar één iemand toen, ruim 10 jaar geleden, bij hem achter in zijn tuintje, op het terrasje met een aantal mensen, de kiem hebben gelegd voor de kazerne. Dus is het mij een grote eer, beste Jan, om vandaag aan jou mee te delen, ten overstaan van al deze mensen, daartoe gemandateerd door zowel directie als het voltallig bestuur, om jou te benoemen voor de unieke titel, voor eens en voor altijd. Je kan hem niet weigeren en je komt er ook nooit meer vanaf. Dames en heren, Jan Post is de enige erevoorzitter van de kazerne. Jan is het. En daar horen de versiers bij. In dit geval gelukkig zonder zo'n ingewikkelde bewaardoos waar je de handleiding bij hebt. Ik ga hem je opspelden en dan mag je maar wel Jan laten zien. Het is het logo van goed. Nou gebeurt mij iets wat mij wel eens vaker gebeurt, dan moet ik die microfoon kwijt. Als jij die nou eens in jouw linkerhand houdt, dan kan ik hem bij jou... Is dat links? Leuk verder, maar ik doe met links bij het achterhoofd hier. Ja, alsjeblieft. Dames en heren, Jan Post, de enige erevoorzitter van de Kazerne Renovated.
I'm aware that to become erevoorzitter in the Netherlands, that's quite something. This morning I got a mail from Moon. We call her always Moon, and she said, Jan, take care, it has to be in English. So here I am. I will try to speak in English. It was in the 60s that I studied at Amsterdam economics, and I was visiting a student friend in his small student room. And while entering the room, he was playing the record, the violin concerto of Max Bruch, played by Jascha Heifetz. And basically, with my family background, drama, toneel, theater was the main thing, not so much classical music. But that day in the 60s, 67, 68, was for me the first day, the first moment that I was confronted with the huge area of art, in this case musical art. It was 1980, so a couple of years later. Koen, at the time, Koen was 13 in 1980. But we in Philips, in the audio division, together with another, we invented the CD, the compact disc, in this city. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, already at that time, 1980, and that's clear, it was already the smartest, most intelligent city of the world. Because inventing a CD is really top. And from that time onwards, even more music came in my life. So in my team, in my business unit, we had the challenge to introduce this unknown small record and disc player into the world, and we did it together with the Dire Straits. And it was also during 3 years that we traveled around the world showing this fantastic masterpiece from Eindhoven to the world. And I'm starting with these words, I won't take a long speech, but since that time I was so convinced that Western Europe, and especially Holland within Western Europe, and within Holland, Eindhoven is the center of science, technology, imagination, working together. So we traveled around the world, and we stayed, my wife and myself and our children, you don't hear it? No. We stayed 8 years abroad. We came back in Eindhoven. I was involved in the whole restructuring of Philips Centurion. I learned there a lot. And since that time, when I left Philips, I used my experience to help art companies to improve their plans, to restructure, and to believe in their futures. And it was around about 10 years ago, as already Martin said, 10 years ago, I was seeing with my wife that more and more graduates from the Design Academy were not leaving straight away for Amsterdam or Rotterdam or Paris or Berlin, no. The first of them were staying in Eindhoven at that time, believing in Eindhoven. So we heard from Annelies Herfsen, at that time, and still a very good, excellent food designer. We said, Annelies, we knew her, we like to invite a couple of those graduates into our house, because we like, my wife and myself, we like to help you to further develop your activities in the Eindhoven area. So Annelies invited Moon and Koen, and Moon alone you can totally forget. If you like Moon, you get Koen at the same time. Now, within a few weeks, you are going to understand that this couple, there is of course the secret. A few words later on that. But also Piet and Eek was there, Kiki and Joost were there, and a few others. Altogether around about 12 top designers. And since that time, we know, of course, Mona Koen much better. And it was a few months later, it was in the garden, not only then at that very moment, but Mona got enough feel that, yeah, I can trust him. That's basically the point. I like to share together with Koen my dreams with him. And ultimately, when you ask Jan at my home, then you will only get it at the same time, of course. And so Mom was telling me that she said, in this Eindhoven for the coming 20, 50 years, we are missing a place where we can show our designs, where Europe can show their designs, where the world can show their designs, where we can talk and study about designs, where you can eat, drink, sleep. That's our idea. And I said, well, that's a very nice story, but where? And she said, well, at the neighbor's house, the barracks, the old Kazerne. And she was talking to an old reserve Marshal officer, so that helps a lot, of course. So it was a huge challenge to convince the local government that quality of this Kazerne to allow us as team, Mon and Koen in front, to change the destination for these buildings in such a way that we could create there an exposition area for design and for meeting rooms and eating and sleeping. And Marianne Scheurs, already she talked, I think she did a great job in convincing her board and her colleagues that this was the right plan, with the right people, she must have thought, talking about Mona and Koen. And in the meantime we had formed a board, a team, a managing team. Mon came with Martin. Koen came with Bertus Borgers, both musicians. Bertus is a good singer and saxophonist. And I myself, I came with Otto Wiedemann, the fiscalist. And all knew each other already 5 to 10 years longer, so you know who you are inviting. That team is still a strong team. And so we convinced Marianne to allow us to execute these plans, and also we had to find an investor to buy the building from Marianne, you could say, from the government. That took quite some time, but we found a famous family who did already a lot for Philips, and especially in this part of Southeast Brabant, Gova, the family Govaars. I don't know if people are still here, otherwise he will come definitely, but the Govaars convinced this family to buy the whole complex, and we as team could hire from the family and the premises here, and so we did. And so we started the whole project. Now already a few times we are enjoying good dinners and nice expositions here. And for me it was time to say goodbye the moment we were sure that the whole finance arrangements was under control for the hotel part, which is now under construction and will be opened at the end of this year during the design, or even just before that. But you can't leave before taking care that you have a good successor. So we found the best successor you can imagine, because Bert van der Els, sitting over left there, is my Lemmy, and it's also a couple. We see them always together in the world of art and business, but especially art. And I knew him already, and I said, oh, he would be the right man with all his contacts, his interest, especially in design. And I asked him, and he said, within 24 hours, Jan, deal. This is a fantastic challenge, I'm going to succeed you. So since a few months, Bert is my successor, and it feels very good when you have to say goodbye, and you have an excellent successor. So I think, together with the team, they will further develop all these plans, and I'm sure that Eindhoven can benefit from a fantastic project like the Kazerne. I'm going to stop. I feel very proud to be, my God, erevoorzitter. Dat is de erevoorzitter. Je hebt erevoorzitter, that's already quite something. And I'm so glad you are coming because, ladies and gentlemen, this lady, the country has only one example of such a lady, and this is Anne. With only one Anne. very experienced musician. So the couple is of art, music, design, totally. A great organizer. But also now back to Annemone, important is to repeat perhaps that in her brains, in her character, she is so strong, so continuing to do a great job, not for herself, no, she does it for all her colleagues and designers, she does it for, especially for Eindhoven. We talk many very often, but not many in the case of we have to earn a fortune out of this whole challenge, not at all. They said it's high time that Eindhoven can invite the world, and this is the project. She did a fantastic job, and the man strongly behind, day and night, Koen. Give him an applause.
Thank you. I just don't know what to say now. Jan and William, you will always be in our heart. I'm so glad you took this journey with us. And yeah, from the beginning, you know, I can't do this without crying, so I just don't, okay? Thank you so much, and thank to all of the board for all the hard work. And now I just want to go on with the program, okay? We will talk about it later. Thank you, Marta, as well. You said it right. The Kazerne is all about celebrating design and celebrating what design does and all the talent that's coming here from Eindhoven. And I'm very, very proud that the new creative director of the Design Academy accepted the offer to give now my English as a guest curator here in the Kazerne. And I think the exhibition, the research he did within Space Caviar together with Martina Muzi is really, really great and really interesting and provoking, because it's not the design we are used here in Eindhoven. So I'm looking forward especially to all the discussions we will have about, but let's not do that today. Joseph, Martina and Judah van Zevde from Van Zelberg Institute, thank you. We'll talk later on, but first we will go into the world premiere of the film Born at Night.
边有，我之前不是拿个伞看它挤到哪里去了，老边有的呀啊，要大点。我想今天反正也没什么事，所以哎呦妈呀！
太自恋了。80，你要稍长一点。啊？有没有稍微再长一点？没有。多少钱这个？你要3条还是？啊？3条10块钱。一个1条呢？2块。小伙子，没那个样子。
我拿几个吧做样品，最近你能拿多少个？如果说我这边弄好了就这样考虑一下吧。拍电影啊。
知道吗？是不是？知道哪吗？
是可以的。
这下我2个字啊，我这个好的，你早子搞得出来。那个男的，这个听不懂人家叫。都经常来，经常都刮了都打。
然后就是这个 U 按3级管赛嘛，然后当时是用电子代替的，然后不知道是不是因为这个原因正常。如果说现在是2个板子，你的原本跟我的新本是认识的话，
对，
这是我们拿那个是吧？
对，没错。不是，哎，我太剪了，
是不是？
这不对，因为这个线我这个不给你，跟它一模一样，也是这么一条，不知道粘起来没看一下，还在那里。
也是在这里是吧？
对。
这个保洁啊，这个上
8了80斤到了，没卖了。你这套菜好看吧？
风景会好，真好。再多点好吧。好。啊，聊对钱。好吧。
快骑回去。
别动，应该还一个是吧？
还有一个什么？这个，寻找中的这个。
对，我看这个了。
对呢，这对，这对。
就你那个很像的就，就那个好看哦。
哇，还是有眼睛有重点。那个，冇啊，我講咩會咁開始間隻咁事嘛？那個啦，係。金高岗合作啊，谢谢。这样，这个他懂，然后点来看做。我冇落㗎嘛。
平靜嘅係嘛？
我站喺湯咩無依站喺只卡最地。我成日掂過，成日拍啲門面啊，真係其實呢啲啦。對，你冇錢話佢聊啲啊？有啲冇啊，你想講？你想講咧，我哋摘條人。你要搶咗集字啫。你要搶咗搶咗就摘條人。呢個啊？我邊有搶手？佢哋出農嘅係咪依家冇摘條人？我平蚊係咪平？150哦，然後係嘅。係啊。搶卡多少錢啊？這數搶卡多少錢啊？睇少多少錢？搶條咩？冇幾多錢啊？哦，佢哋喺度搞客搶條咩？我當未跟佢。你都唔似，你都冇嘅錢，你都學冇錢啊？開什麼？佢學咩？我冇你。我哋呢度學橋㗎你，你都唔教啊？我從唔知道。
这要出去做花園，就忙過去冇得叫伊自家做忙啊，就冇得叫先買，冇過來就講，就幫排啊3-4點鐘你出去就是花園啊。所以我覺得 另外前面应该无有讲，伊个每一应该是叫另外调啦，能够好很混有嘿。
所以講你燈光有光係是啊，即係實用嘅乜嘢好勁下。
是倒数第二台，能明白吗？
从里面往出来，手机要从货架上。拿3包过来，我找个样板给你。钥匙你拿了吗？
钥匙不知道。
你拿钥匙呀。
哦。我连样板都没的。
样板有的，你千万要拿成一模一样的，要不然拿错了就麻烦了。来，样板这有。一定要看这个头，一定要看这个尾巴这里，千万别拿成 mini 的了，这是 Michael 的，是吧？
哦，钥匙拿
3包或者4包都可以。你刚不是问过你爸了吗？
我爸没告诉我。
应该就是这个吧？你问一下你爸是不是这个？
爸爸是不是买钥匙仓库的？
老公就会，麻烦。
没问题，这你谁对？没说嘛的呢？
看见没有，大头儿子邻居。你说反了。装反了，别装反。别太会装的，装齐。
你这个前面不应该写我公司收到某某公司他的存在，你是他的银行知道的，就不能这么写，他的也不同意。就是那个1万这个那个，我。
两个一共40-20块吗？
啊，知道了，我补刀了。
啊？
我来补刀。
好，你自己弄了，弄了。
这点按都按不了了。这个稍微改一下。
这个改是确实有点问题。如果它的最终的测试效果就是这样，最终想要的。
还有个问题啊。 人家呢把这个孔啊
闭掉，
要不然的话也大很多细的，真的，你看那个孔，这个板又厚，
知道。
你看啊，一个、两个，一把
那
三个。
你跟他说，我这有一点头，碗你可以搬得正。你拿去焊，再拿去焊斜了，然后看能不能搬正了。焊，比如意外嘛，就这样，你看能不能360度转过它来。
就行了，
焊歪哦，一定要焊歪哦，不要正哦，正就不用搬了。
That's a different perspective on design, I guess. Will you please come from So...
No, I have to face the jury.
Yeah. If you want to sit, please do. That's also okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, the curators, Martina, Joseph and Joa, who is going to talk to them. Stage.
Shall I just immediately kick off with, why did you make this film?
Martina, you want to take that one?
Before saying it, this is really a beautiful film. I mean, it's hardcore, especially after the celebration. Congratulations and goodbye, John Mayle. I can relate to this. My name translates into Johnny likewise. You are von Zauber. Why did you make this beautiful film?
I guess the story begins quite a long way back, in fact, from... I would say a number of conversations with various people, both students and professors of the academy. So in a way it's kind of a circle coming back to where it began. In around 2012, which I think was the year that, maybe 2013, more or less that time, I was invited here by Rihanna to take part in the reviews of, I think it was the social design course presumably at that time, 2012, yeah. And at the time, and that was an incredible opportunity to meet a lot of the tutors and also the students. It was also the time when I think more or less I met Tamasha Freer, and we began together a project called Space Caviar, a studio which still persists in the form of productions of this kind. In a way, I think this and a lot of the other things that we've worked on in the 6 years since then have been an attempt to understand what design is today, and how we can, in a way, kind of understand what we mean by the word design, starting less from a sort of an etymological perspective, or from the kind of the idea of design as the extension of a familiar and well-known series of actions and initiatives, but more to kind of attempt to develop mechanisms through which we could take a step back and understand, primarily through the observation of human behavior, what it means to be a designer today. And I think that, and so that was actually through Tamar afterwards that I met Martina, and that began a long series of collaborations mostly through the medium of film, through which we attempted to kind of understand what's kind of going on there in the real world outside of our little bubble of design. So yeah, I think that's one explanation.
Because you've shot the film.
Yes, I did. About the film, we were really interested in understanding what was hidden behind the news that we could read from Shenzhen. Like the hardware, Silicon Valley of hardware, and actually Wired showed it like a really fantastic documentary, short film. But we were actually really interested in understanding going in the field and somehow spend quite a lot of time to immerse ourselves in what was there. And that somehow the film itself is an attempt to it for the extent that it is possible for the boundary of the language and also of the knowledge of the culture itself. We work regardless of this film itself, we work with Joseph a lot in field research. That's what we like to do. So the three films we did together is actually three different ways of emerging into. The process of the research is totally immersed in the context, in the environment, in digital communities, the latest in Minecraft, blockchain. And here it was a bit fast. It was Shenzhen ecosystem. And I think personally is what I enjoy the most. That's where I see the value of the research and design, trying to immerse and observe mostly, and through observation and also a series of observation, repeating observing the same characters only to get one specific good shot or half good shot sometimes. And so that's the process itself. And then of course there are reasons why we choose this context and why design and research is relevant in Shenzhen itself, and that's a conversation we can start. But that's a bit small introduction about the film.
How do you connect this to the invention of the CD here in Eindhoven?
Well, I was really happy to hear that. Because many things have been invented in a totally different way in Shenzhen market, electronic market. And some of the products that are next door are in fact really good examples. I do maybe have a question first, in order to don't say something wrong. Was the CD invented by who? Philips. So it was, yeah. So that's the biggest.
You need telecom, our data acquisition. You need lighting how to read, visualize the digital information on the disk, and you need to have audio knowledge, because the music on the disk. So
Telecom, audio, and light. Is everybody making notes?
We had kind of horizontal dialogue, and that our reflection is unique.
Okay.
So the message basically was
So, did that answer your question?
Knowledge, like a multidisciplinary team. Yeah.
So how do you translate that then back to Shenzhen? What's there? What's beyond audio, light, telecoms? Because what the fuck was happening in all of these places? It's insane.
Yeah, that was the biggest question Joseph and I continue asking ourselves while trying to make an edit
as a kind of a professional response from the jury. It's really nice to not know, because there's no subtitles here, there's no wall text in the exhibition, so you have no clue what you're actually looking at, watching, trying to kind of understand, which is excruciating because it's really tiresome, but it's really nice because then you kind of get into it. At least
I think that's one of the things that we were really kind of going backwards and forwards on almost until last night, was whether to explain, essentially. And it's, I think, a conundrum in, it goes beyond obviously this exhibition, it goes to a question also, kind of a didactic question about how do you teach design, how do you learn design, what sort of an environment will produce an interesting, will form the skill of observing the world and learning. And in the end, we thought that maybe kind of producing a sort of almost quasi-mystical environment, an imaginary environment, which is completely real. I mean, it's all just observing. If nothing is staged or in any way, a lot of it really is just about waiting for the right moment and capturing a certain action and understanding. But this, the result that comes out of that is something that allows you to observe. I mean, the kind of, in a way that the hope is that this provokes also a different kind of understanding of these objects that you see on the walls, and kind of seeing them, the environment they come out of, and the sort of actions and all of the sort of the chain that leads to their existence. One can understand how intricate, well, I think it's something we take for granted, is the degree to which the environment influences the kind of objects that are produced. So in a way, this whole project is really not so much about the products, or even, I mean, it's articulated through an observation of human behavior, but actually the point that we're really trying to get at is that in order to produce, to rethink the act of designing, you also need to rethink the environment, the sort of the platforms which articulate that design. And the marketplace, Hacham Bay Marketplace, which is what you saw, is really a platform for design. In fact, it wouldn't be possible without the kind of things that are produced there, and its global dominance wouldn't be possible without this sort of extraordinary density of network of people.
What's the end game for them? Is it to sell products, or is it?
I mean, in its most basic form, I think it's no different from the local green vegetable market. It's actually kind of incredibly touching to see how dispassionate they are about what they're selling or making or whatever. There's very little emotional attachment to it. At the same time, there's incredible gratification. They really enjoy the act of making these things and of selling and buying and so on. So it's, in a way, it's a kind of a mix between the instinct of survival and the instinct of creation. And there's something really magical in this environment.
But also acquiring slowly professional skills. So that's one of the nice things, like growing in a market like that. Technology is not anymore something called a fire. Components are not disconnected. It's like really like growing. There is really this image which I really like, is like digging into components. I don't read that as a digging into like dry components. It's actually approaching the component as if it's rice. As like development of different skills, which comes from different materials. And this is something you can observe in any corner. So in the same way, like a beautiful flower shop at the market, is made by cables. Then of course there are different implications, you can read it in a different way, we can take like many directions into the conversation. But in terms of what is there, like this, the audio, the telecom, I think you can say that in different ways. There are like this, as Joseph also mentioned, the spaces. The spaces are interconnected. There is the home, the factory, and the market. Without this, the coexistence and the proximity of these three, results would have been different. And then there are like other more social-based ingredients, which is the family, the friendship, and the really like constant network. So the phone itself is like this WhatsApp overloading
the everyday life, like the private life. WeChat, sorry. Oh, WeChat.
Seeing this made me think of the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and this feels like it takes a market to develop design or develop a skill. And how does this scale up, or do you have any sensibility of kind of how that, at what scale does this function, and could this be then, how do we learn here, or how could these people learn from that?
This is a super interesting question, like being there like long time, 6 months. One of my questions continuously repeating in my brain was, can this exist somewhere else? Can it actually be possible or special for only this social, political context? And this, I don't have an answer to that. I just know that there are, like in this context, there are many attempts to take out design and the meaning of design, and especially this like really like word that we really like is innovation.
Innovation,
which, yeah, like that can mean many things and different scales. So, like this is a super interesting question, and you can really answer in different ways. So you can answer saying, what are actually the factory going now? So I can say, okay, like Vietnam or Philippines or Africa. Or you can also looking at in a way of how design is evolving, and you say what actually from this market can we learn and apply. So it's more like a methodology, extract a methodology, or a format. Yeah, sure.
Just to add one thing to that, one of the things that I think we were most intrigued by and shocked by, and spending some time there, was the degree to which things that we consider unbelievably radical are completely normal. Like, in a way, you could consider the whole of these huge buildings that sort of constitute the marketplace as enormous hackerspaces.
Yeah.
And the sort of the daily, whereas in the West the hackerspace is sort of this very ideological thing that occupies a very specific position. It's almost like a manifesto of design and so on. There it's just completely spontaneous, and it's just complete normality, and it's completely shocking that anybody could find this interesting to them. And that was one of the things that was, the fact that we could find all of this interesting was the thing that they just couldn't, the people of the market couldn't really get their heads around.
Including the muscle memory. It really, I mean, I have to think of a normal market as well. It's kind of going through the apples or tomatoes to see which one is the right one. Kind of going through all the different products or cables just to find what fits where, and also the little components with the magnetism or whatever they were doing, trying to do.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's super interesting. Is these and this is also a very Chinese way of solving problems. Is just finding the absolute, just chopping a piece off the side of your cat's box to sift through, separate transistors from some component from another, and there's an unbelievable pragmatism in the culture, which is incredibly beautiful. But the thing that's interesting is that it's that operates at every scale really, and you could really imagine this becoming, I think, certainly for Eindhoven, a really interesting model of how one could structure an entire city around the design process through the kind of implantation of certain activities or certain platforms.
Looking at it more critically from maybe environmental point of view, human rights issues, what are the things that you found trouble or kind of disturbing and troublesome about this?
We have to say that Shenzhen is actually around 2010. There were like many human rights movements. There is also a nice publication about interviews to workers, which is...
Because there's some children working in there as well. Some young children are helping out as well.
Yeah, this is Saturday. That's I want to clear it out. It's Saturday. Kids go to school. And on Saturday they go to the work and to help the family as much I always help my mother.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, there is like a care. Then, of course, if you go in the countryside, it's different. But Shenzhen, it has this. It's like a urban jungle. Somehow there are like some habits that comes from the countryside, but still like they take place in a city. So it's like a under development somehow. Also the behavior, how you live the city itself.
It's also Blade Runner without the rain.
It's slightly left as well.
Yeah.
But there are some things that I don't know in terms of health, like the hair in the market is tough. I mean, anybody can experience that.
Yeah.
You just need to go there.
And also the kind of, sorry to interrupt you, the paradox of sustainability, because it feels on a surface level that, this is actually really sustainable. They use and reuse everything, it's very open source. But then when you see the packaging and the plastic and kind of how they distribute everything and the kind of the un-Amazon-like, un-Steve or Bezos-like distribution model, it's kind of unsustainable to the bone. How does that function?
I think this is, there are a couple of points here that are really interesting to kind of unpack a little bit, because I think they reveal the extent to which we are biased by our own sort of context. And one of these is to address the last one, those are things that are essentially being made for us. So if we're buying electronics, they're going to come from somewhere and they're going to be packaged and they're going to be shipped and so on. It's like, complaining about animals being killed to go to when you eat sausages. We are ultimately the kind of the last mile of this food chain, at the bottom of this food chain. And so that is actually simply providing, not just to us obviously, but to the world, a service that is kind of this insatiable demand for electronics is being satisfied by them. And so I don't know to what degree we can unload onto them the responsibility for any of the practices that lead up. On the contrary, I think that when you see them sifting through the components, and this is hopefully the next stage of the research, those are actually components that come from e-waste plants that have been, not only, but partly, part of the, certain parts of the marketplace are entirely devoted to the kind of
diswiring when it breaks, basically.
Yeah, and then separating those components, which happens in a different place, and then they're being shipped back in bags of sort of mixed items, some of which are taken out with magnets or whatever system. That's not like where everything comes from, but there is an incredible ability to find kind of economies of recycling and of reintroduction, much more than you would imagine, in fact. And the third is, I think, the question of social sustainability and the sort of presence of children and so on. It's very difficult to make sort of blanket judgments, but I didn't see, I had no reason to perceive a less balanced or less wholesome family structure or society there than anywhere here. In many ways, I would argue the contrary. That was an incredible integration of, there's something incredibly beautiful about the children learning to pack tape and being really part of the sort of the economy of the place where they live and the day-to-day activities of their families.
Is there anybody in the room? We have 2 minutes left, or maybe one, with a question that we haven't addressed. Yes, Mr. Post.
Every time when I'm looking at the backside of my iPhone, I'm reading Made in China. This must be a different China than the China you showed me.
No, actually iPhone assembled it's another phase, or they coexist. iPhone assembled Apple assembled the iPhones in Foxconn. It's like one of the biggest, actually it's
Taiwanese company.
Yeah, based in Shenzhen, with Chinese workers. And what we decided to only put one scene, like just at the end, the factory within it. And the factory is really small. It looked like an atelier or like a really small assembly line. I think the workers there were around 12, which is a different phase of factories and what potentially factory can mean here. And the products that we show in the other room, they are from those typology of factories, which is more like a laboratory / assembly line / it's like research on how to make it better, that's what the last two guys were doing, like observing the same board, and the board is thick, we need more welding, etc., etc. So it's a different phase, yes. And those are the factories which are like increasing in number, and that's where the question also is like, is that actually sustainable? How long they can survive? And how they are linked each other. That's what was interesting also, how they are linked each other in order to have like a final product which can be not sustained in terms of research and in terms of making, in terms of assembling by only one laboratory. So that's where the factory becomes a totally different shape, which is like a network of small factories, or small laboratories, which are linked, link each other to where the products come from.
I think I opened a can of worms because more people have questions. Joseph and Martina will be here. We have to wrap up, but I have one question before everybody leaves, because you're going to leave through the exhibition, and you want to see the exhibition after you've seen the film. So how do you hope all of us here see the exhibition after having seen the film? What do you hope for?
I would say that you see people instead of seeing objects. That's the point, really.
Something I would like to add is that the objects selected, they were the hits of the 2016. And like
the finished products.
Yeah, the finished product, the one that were sold in the market, the most famous one. Which is this nice phenomenon of when a product becomes famous, like the lamp we are around, it starts to be changed and modified and re-put in the market, and many others are interested in continuing the evolution of it. So that's the...
They're really like memes in object or product form, in a way, and they come and go, and the factories retool and just kind of take on whatever appears to be the next thing. They kind of take a gamble on retooling for the certain product, and then if it explodes, they make a lot and they improve it. That's a whole other chapter of conversation.
Next time.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. They will be around, so please don't hesitate to ask all your questions. And we will have some more talks in the next coming months. So when you're curious to talk to them again, follow our website, Facebook, and so on. Now, there's one thing to do, and that's to thank everyone who is cooperating with this exhibition. First of all, of course, Daphna and Lawrence, who made the beautiful exhibition design. Give them a big hand.
We're really grateful because the exhibition really takes the essence of the market without really scientific way, without an identity. So thank you.
Thanks. Forever doing this great job and being always there for us. And of course, Ruud Balken, photography, who has been with us forever. I like also to thank Brabant Zee, Cultuur Eindhoven, the province who make it all possible. Leeuwerik Plaatmateriaal, Lucas and Lucas, Saint Gobain Glass Solutions, and Gert Staal, and all the people I forget right now. So I'm sorry if I did forget you, but that's our team, of course, of Kazerne. Margot, and who's doing it? Sorry? Robert, for the film, yeah. For filming it, and of course... So let's go to the bar, have a drink, have a chat, and I hope to see you all soon. We have a couple of people invited over to dinner, so they will know when you get hungry, we'll get to the dinner. Thank you.